All right, welcome back to the program, Professor Godwin Oyedokun, a professor of accounting and financial development, Leeds City University, Ibadan. He's a chartered accountant as well as a chartered banker. He joins us now from Ibadan. Good morning to you, Prof, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nasi, and thank you for having me. Good morning, our listener. I hope we are doing well. Thank you
Yes,
for having me here.
we are doing well, but we can be better, definitely. Now, Prof, let's just hit the ground running. I don't know if you watched the MPC's briefing last week, or perhaps if you didn't watch, if you read excerpts from that. The central bank governor was asked specifically about even the impact of the SVB, the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in the United States, and the impact, sometimes the contagious effect it could have, and perhaps if there's a direct link to Nigerian banks. And Godwin Emefiele did speak as to the prudential guidelines, as well as saying there that Nigerian banks are resilient and they are sound financially. Do you believe the central bank governor, do you believe the Central Bank of Nigeria regarding the strength, and not just the strength, the financial soundness of Nigerian banks?
Let's see. I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom, but I will let you know that the CBN governor is in the best position to tell us the capacity of Nigerian bank to capacitate all that is happening within our financial sector. Hence, I will not be morally sound to query his utterances on that. However, I want to tell you that what we have currently in terms of Naira redesign and the likes speak much volume about the capacity of Nigerian banking system to be resilient, as the governor has said. I press this further by letting you know that most of the problem we have within that 4 or 5 weeks of cash crunch could be linked to the capacity of the bank. Before now, we've been told that they have capacity, they can do online, they can do all sort of. Look at how those things were tested and they failed woefully. Before the collapse of the bank, Silicon Bank that you're talking about, the regulator in that claims will also tell you that they are all doing well. Of course, they have a clean sheet of book, according to the auditor. So your guess is as good as mine. But if you pick Nigerian bank one after the other, I will confirm to you today, with all sense of modesty and humility, that the backbone of these banks are already in the jackpot syndrome. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. Most of the guys are their backbone in terms of um, technology wise. They are no longer there, and that explains most of the problem we have in the system. Nancy.
Okay. Prof, you've raised some issues, and let's see if we can interrogate that further. You did say, of course, we should believe the central bank governor, and you brought out the issue of the cash crunch. But I'm really trying to analyze it this way. Okay, let me say what I mean. The financial soundness of the banks is not the same as circulatory or circulation issues.
Sure.
So I think we should be able to divide both issues. Because I asked you earlier, from what you've seen and from what we've seen over the years, if Nigerian banks are financially sound, how would you differentiate that with circulation, money, cash circulation issues that we've experienced at least in the last few weeks? Prof, I hope you understand what I'm asking.
Yes, but I will also explain in my own way of doing so. I let you know that the banking activities has to do with business of trust, whereby I entrust my hard-earned income into your bank on the fact that when I come for my money, I should get it. In fact, it has legal implication for me to request to withdraw my money from your bank and you are not giving me. Your inability to even give me my money means that you are not financially sound. But because of the redesign, they've modeled up everything. You won't even know within that period which of the bank can meet the obligation of giving back to the owners of the depositors and when due. Okay, so what do you call bank run or bank overrun? If a particular bank is unable to give back to the owners of the deposit when they need, you will see every other customer will rush to that bank and say they want to collect their money that same day, and the bank will no longer be able to. So what happened? Collapse is imminent. So within the last few weeks, bank as they are hiding behind the misfortune of the policy that CBN gave us, and you cannot tell their soundness on that basis. So I'm telling you that why will there not be money in the bank when you have money with the bank? So those are the issues that I'm bringing up, and said during this period, CBN governor will not be morally justified to say banks is so much sound to that extent because you can't test it.
Okay,
If
Prof.
he's saying we are resilient, what happened to those merger and acquisition that are going on underneath?
Okay, Prof. Mergers and acquisitions can actually even go on with strong banks, so to speak, if they really want to compete more. So it's not just about merger and,
Of course,
yes, it's not
of
just
course, you want
about,
to say for synergy purpose. You want to say it's for synergy purpose, but don't forget predator aspect of it. That's an underlying tone when we are talking about merger and acquisition.
Prof, can you say that again? Let me get you. I didn't hear you earlier. What were you saying
Okay, what
about
I'm saying
mergers
is
and
that,
acquisitions?
yes, apart from the fact that we are talking about synergy, 2 plus 2 should be equal to the number greater than the addition of the 2. There is usually a political undertone when merger and acquisition discussion is on the board.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a bit if we have time for that. But let's stick with this circulation, cash circulation issue and the cash crunch, as well as the IT issues you mentioned earlier. I want you to be able to clarify that. And from also what I know with the workings of the banking system, you will recall that even before or while all this was going on, there was a policy from the Central Bank of Nigeria in terms of withdrawal policy, in terms of how much a Nigerian, an individual can get out of the ATM point. And they did give us a limit for a week, as well as later it was revised when many Nigerians started making some hula balloon. That is by the side. So, and the banks are still sticking with that policy. Prof, I hope you are following my journey. Now, the other thing which you've also raised is that if the banks indeed have this money, and I want to ask for my money, they are bound to give me back my money. You mentioned earlier also that the IT backbone of the banks are challenged. The majority of their staff, especially in the IT department, their departments, most banking departments, that the IT departments are suffering right now from migratory pressure. I don't even think it's only the IT. When you go to banks, majority of their staffs are leaving Nigeria right now. I want you to be able to differentiate this. Is it that there is no money because the Central Bank of Nigeria holds cash in terms of, Prof, are you there? Or Prof is gone? There's what they call the cash reserve requirement, which is 32.5% right now, and the liquidity ratio, which is 30% of the cash that banks are supposed to keep with the central bank. Is Prof still there?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm having some network
Okay,
challenges,
okay,
but I'm back.
Prof, I hope you are following my my question.
Yes, I'm trying to. I'm trying to.
Yes. So what I'm asking with these, and I hope that we can put, my team should be able to put the prudential guidelines, the ratios up there so that we can follow the discussion well. The circulation, the cash crunch issue that we saw with the banks, isn't it a circulation problem? Perhaps because the Central Bank of Nigeria was not supplying enough cash, or perhaps the banks also had cash, but they were hoarding it, or perhaps because their IT infrastructure were challenged, and if you do your transfer, it doesn't go as at when due. Prof, I hope you understand me. These are a lot of issues that we need to unpack.
Yes.
So, Prof,
Yes, I
yeah,
understand
yes, go ahead.
you. Okay, okay. My response to this is this. Like I said the other time, all these beautiful guidelines that you are projecting now is as good as the paper in which it contains, because a principal matter that can be used to trace this issue is missing, and that is availability of cash from CBN to banks. Now, within this short period of time, we've seen activities of so-called Nigerians that are governing each of the deposit money banks that we have in Nigeria, to the extent that even they also were hiding on the anointing of the fact that there was no cash. They couldn't give their bank customer cash, whereas they were holding it for God knows the purpose. So that's on one side. Now, following prudential guideline that says that certain minimum must be retained, I want to confirm to you that they would have even gotten 100% of it saved, because there was no cash given to anybody during that period of time. So maybe on that strength, CBN governor may be saying the bank is doing well. But can the bank do well when you are not stress test? You can only know whether you are doing well when customer can get their money as and when due, when they need it. Because the check that must be issued on the account is unconditional order that must be paid on demand. And if it's not paid, it's a service failure. So
Okay.
Nigerians that went to bank during this period and are unable to get their money, it's a service failure on banks. And that should have been considered as part of the problem of resilience that we're talking about.
Okay, Prof, let's quickly play this video from Godwin Emefiele at the last MPC meeting, and that will give us a sense of what we're going to discuss next. Let's quickly take that.
But on the second part, we began to say, how are we sure that the Nigerian banking system is reasonably insulated to ensure that what happened in the United States does not happen in Nigeria? So we reviewed the various prudential guidelines were put in place. Nigeria, like I said in my discussion when I went to Joburg, Nigeria, being one of the countries, is one of the countries, or few countries in the world where we have cash reserve deposit requirement. What is cash deposit requirement? It has been there even before I started banking, that when you deposit your money in a bank, a certain percentage of that deposit is held or serialized at the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure that when there are kind of liquidity crises, that money is available to that bank for them to use to solve that liquidity problem, so that depositors don't lose their money. Two, we also have liquidity ratio, which is an indices of specified liquid assets against total deposits of banks, either held in cash in bank vault, or bank balances, or money at call, treasury bills, OMO bills, and different other liquid instruments. And in Nigeria, our ratio is minimum of 30%. Banks keep above that. Today, liquid ratio is almost about 43%. Cash reserve, we all know, just like we read, is about 32.5%. The loan deposit ratio, which means that banks are not over trading, is just about 52.47%. But we are happy that in spite of maintaining these prudentials, that the banks still remain profitable. The ROIs, the return on equities, or return on the profitability ratios have remained, I would say, relatively strong, even though when banks convert those profitability from naira to dollar, they seem weaker, but at the same time, the Nigerian banks have continued to make profit, and they have continued to pay good dividend to their shareholders.
Okay, Prof, I hope you're still there and you listened to what Godwin Emefiele, the governor of the central bank, said. What can you make out of
Yes.
that? Bearing in mind that he did say that the amount of deposit of the bank in the bank at a certain time has to be with them in the tune of 32.5%. Now, let me break it down for our viewers. Let's say a bank has 100,000 naira so to speak, within its vault. At every given time, 32,500 naira has to be with the Central Bank of Nigeria. That does not mean that the CBN is confiscating that money. So I just needed to explain that so that our viewers would understand. In the other part of the question which he answered, he did also mention, the governor did mention that during this crisis, that 1 trillion naira so far, when he was talking about money in circulation, in fact, I was the one that asked that question, that how much is the cash in circulation, so that we can definitely know why we are having this crisis. And he did say that 1 trillion naira is out right now, cash in circulation. How can you juxtapose that as against the 2.7 trillion naira that was out before, but the CBN has pushed 1 trillion naira out? So I'm asking this question to, so that you can take a look at the other part. Is that what could be affecting the cash crunch which you mentioned earlier, but not about bank soundness? Prof, I hope you're understanding me, because there are two different things.
Yes, I'm aware there are two different things, but let me pick it from the 1 trillion and above in circulation. Do you know that there's difference between cash outside CBN vault and cash in circulation? Do you know I can break it down like that?
Yes.
If CBN is saying we have above 1 trillion, so to say, in circulation, do you know it may not be in circulation, so to say? Because if you push money out when everybody is in need of money and it cannot go around, what certain set of people did was to just audit. So it's just from your CBN purse to certain people's purses. So it's not circulating. And that is the problem we are talking about here. Yes, there's no doubt about the figures of 30%, 40%. CBN maintains those figures. And that is what they use in terms of telling us that the banks are sound. And I'm not going to dispute that. But I'm not saying within the last 4-5 weeks, you may not be able to use this data of how much individual banks have with CBN to determine whether they are sound or not. Because at that period of time, you are not testing their financial health check. You are not checking it. So it is when things are normal like this that we can say, okay, are you able to operate when there's no cash redesign and all things being equal? That's when you can test them and know whether they can actually do the banking job that we are talking about. And Nancy, that's what I'm trying to explain. Figures are there, they have it, no problem. I can even tell you that if they say 45, 40, they can even say they have 100% with the CBN. But are they able to get it from the CBN and give it to their customers and when needed? That is the problem here.
Okay, Prof, you're bringing out a lot of issues, and we will not even have time to take a look at it today. But you brought out another issue, which is the IT issues and the migratory pressure that we're seeing with the staff that are working with various banks. What do you think can be done to stem this challenge? Because many bankers are getting out of the country. They are jackbuying out of the country. Is there anything that can be done? Can the association CIBN also be part of the solution?
Okay, the problem of that is beyond a particular institution or even CBN. And I want to believe that if CBN governor will be truthful, he will tell you the number of people that must have resigned in his own office as well. It's not about individual. It is the responsibility of those that are governing the country. If the country is well governed, everybody is okay. The issue will not be, okay? So all industry, including audit firms, they are witnessing this. Universities, people are just resigning every day. And that is about the economy generally. And those that are charged with the governance of this country, if they do it well, people will have reason to stay and continue to do their business in Nigeria. What about companies? They are also moving. You will see effect soon when the country does not have any incentive for people to leave, no security, no adequate amenities, people would leave. They will go to where they can get things better. So even when you talk about challenge of bankers of Nigeria, what's informal that they don't even have people that have resigned in the last few months? Everybody wants to go and enjoy one way or the other. If the country is well positioned, there's opportunity, people are doing what they need to do, nobody will want to move in that drones that we are witnessing in Nigeria today.
Okay.
Nancy.
Okay, I think everyone is trying to seek for greener pastures. Not so many people have the patience to water where you are to be green, you know. But just like you said, it's the broader economic challenges that we're seeing. But many thanks to you, Prof, for joining us. I would say this is not the last of it, really, because you brought out a lot of issues which I'll still want to interrogate, but that will be on another day. Thank you, Prof, for joining us. All right, I've been speaking with Professor Godwin Oyedokun, who is a professor of accounting and financial development at Lead City University, Ibadan. He is a chartered accountant as well as a chartered banker. That's it from me today. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye now.